is related to anxiety, and that's been well proven. So if your gut microbes are not making, let's say GABA, I love GABA. GABA is a major neurotransmitter for anxiety. So if you don't make enough GABA, and there's a lot of reasons, they've found out that people who use, glyphosate, which is Roundup, So if they use that and it gets into, they're breathing it in and it's coming through their skin, then when these little microbes in your gut are trying to make GABA, which is relaxing and calming, it is your chill hormone that you're making. But if you have that in there, it cuts off the ability for the different building blocks like magnesium, B6 come together, and other things come together to make GABA. And your microbes are in there making it. It's a little lab. And when you start to have an environmental toxin like glyphosate, it'll make it so that you are anxious all the time because you can't make GABA because you have this stuff which is not supposed to be there that is there. If you have bad pathogens, it can be environmental, like chemicals that are coming in that you're like glyphosate or something else. Then that microbiome is not making the serotonin and the dopamine and the GABA that it needs to make. So you got to look at everything you're doing. And then food, sugar. Sugar really pretty much is a chemical. Ooh, caffeine, love it. And unfortunately, it creates a lot of anxiety in people who are already anxious. It really drives it. I see it in myself.
Why do we crave those things?
We do.
Especially when we're depressed. Dana or Nancy can answer this, or maybe both of you can answer this. Why do we crave it? If I just broke up with my girlfriend and I got 3 pints of ice cream and I've got to down it. Why is that a reality?
Well, there's a serotonin hit to that 3 pints of ice cream for one thing. There is but it's short. It's short-lived, and anyone who's played it out knows it. So they got to keep doing it.
Is there dopamine?
But go back to the childhood, though.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
How often did you skin your knee and Grandma gave you a cookie?
Mm-hmm.
Or you were sad, and so you made a pie. Or there's so much emotional connection to food.
Oh, there's no doubt about it.
And it's soothing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's like you have
food and smells.
Yes, you have these memories connected to it. And it just feels like I don't feel good. And so I'll eat this, or I do feel good. And so every time I do feel good, then we get to have a party. And if we have a party, we have to have chips and Coke and candy. It's just there's a lot of emotion there. And we have to learn to look at things as adults and go, is this childhood memory making my life better? Or is it handicapping me in some way? And then if you want to go like past the emotions to like just basically physical addiction. If you eat a lot of sugar, you have an overgrowth of candida. So when that craving is there, you're not craving sugar. The candida bugs are screaming for sugar. If you stop feeding them, they will die.
Yeah, that's good.
So it's not like the addiction to some substances. It truly, there's something alive in your body that needs sugar to live. And so it screams for sugar until you give it. Mm-hmm. And if you don't give it, it will die off.
Yeah. Is there a correlation to sometimes, we look at like lethargic behavior or feeling sleepy or tired or exhausted, whatever the case, and we make that connection with depression specifically, And I know there is some connection. But when I'm depressed and I eat bad foods, is sometimes that the result of my lethargic behaviors because I put a bunch of sugar and put a bunch of carbs in my body, and now I'm just tired because of what I've
It's a vicious
eaten.
cycle.
Yeah.
And when you think too, like if we're not going to eat food that has nutrients, and when you think what's a nutrient, all the things that we need to survive, and there's not a nutrient in Cheetos.
There's not?
No. Or
it's orange though,
or
so
Dr. Pepper.
That's a fruit.
Or
Okay.
So when you really there are people that if you looked at everything they ate in a day, there's no nutrients. That is the equivalent to saying, I plan to drive my car and I'm going to discontinue gas and hope for the best. I'm just going to keep going, and I know it'll work. It's that foolish because we need. Yes, you can keep walking, but not well. Like your body is screaming for nutrients.
And if you drive your car on empty all the time, it also affects your car.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you don't ever run out of gas, but it still can your fuel injectors and all these things could be diminished because of the fact that you're playing with fire in a sense. Gail, when I fostered, I had kids that I know that they had bad diets, and one of them particularly was not regulated well, and it was quite the struggle with her maintaining her emotions, falling out and so forth. I'm just wondering if you have had some of those circumstances, and what are some of the things that you did practically to regulate that child's mental state?
I have one child that we got that was totally out of control when we got him, and we did a lot of biofeedback with him. However, just recently, we're 3 years down the road and still was having some problems with outbursts and things. And I have a friend that prays a lot, and she called me and said, I had this, dream that you were setting him on the pot and praying for him. And I'm like, okay, so maybe there's bathroom issues, And my daughter, I was just telling her that, and she was on the show the last time. She looked up, she said she just thought magnesium. And so she looked up the deficiency of magnesium, and it was incredible. All the behaviors that we were seeing within him were also on that sheet of people that are deficient with magnesium. So in there, they said to start giving him magnesium, and you should notice a difference within 2 weeks. And I would tell you it was night and day difference. We don't even, rarely does, he have an outburst. It just seems to have really calmed him, and so that's a huge one. We also have a girl that has encopresis, which means that she basically stayed constipated all the time and would leak around the stool. And it was a big issue, and a lot of these kids coming into foster care that are in foster care that have a lot of blown placements have that problem, and they have it for many different reasons. So that's one that we've gone a long journey through.
But again, magnesium was a solution for her.
It was. It wasn't as easy with her. She originally, when asked why she did what she did, she basically said, well, if I stay dirty, then nobody will hurt me again. And so it was a psychological thing as well. So just, she had started withholding, then her body just got where it would just so enlarged. And so it got to the point where she didn't really want to get well. And so we did a lot of praying over her, and I would make her take the magnesium supplement, and it helps some. We used what they call them little poop balls, but you make them out of coconut oil and chocolate and honey, and you can just give them to, like they're a little candy. And if they just take them, it helps lubricate and make things a little looser. And so when they go, what happens is it gets so large. So
when you're talking about large, you're talking about the intestines.
I'm talking, well, I don't know, I guess.
So the intestine is expanding because there's so much poop inside.
Well, that and just even their rectum where it comes out. So like when I really got onto the issue is like, you have to show me every time you go, because we kept clogging the toilet when we'd finally get her to go. And it was so large around that it would not even fit in the toilet, the round part of the toilet. That's how large, and she's a very tiny girl. And so it was a very, the doctors recommend Miralax, and my research has been that Miralax is a petroleum product and can cause huge mental health issues. And so we pulled her off of the Miralax because we were seeing erratic behavior out of her. And like she would get real angry and just slam doors, and typically, she just started getting more aggressive. And so we pulled her off of the Miralax and started trying to do the magnesium, the poop balls, and just looking at that webpage. There's a webpage called Parents Against Miralax. It's a Facebook page. And there's a wealth of information if anybody is struggling with this issue. But we started doing some of the things that they recommended, and it wasn't until somebody on that page recommended a product called Mag-07, which is a oxygenated magnesium, and you use it a lot to do colon cleanse. But I was able to give her like just 2 of those instead of what you would take for a colon cleanse. And I can give her 2. She takes 2 or 3 a night, and she has been regular. She's gained, she was very, very, very small. She looks normal now. I mean, it was really getting to the point where we were very concerned about what are we going to do next, because we couldn't get her to gain weight. And now she's healthy. She doesn't have intestinal issues. She's regular. She's not having any of those issues.
That's amazing. I want to take kind of a break right now, because when I come back, I just want to give you a warning, okay? Put this on the warning screen. We're going to talk about bowels and poop and intestines when we come back, because that's a really something that even saying it's kind of like, ugh, you know, but it's an important part of our mental health, as we're going to find out later. And maybe some questions that you should ask yourself, and maybe some things you should even consider and think about with your children, because they're very, very important. And we don't want to gross anybody out, but that's what we're going to talk about when we get back. What other podcast is talking about poop? Ours. So we'll be back. This is Healing Hope, Broken Hearted Child. All right, we're back. One day I'm going to compile all of our conversations that we have during the break and edit them. And then, because there's some good stuff that we talk about. And it's just, I'm learning a whole lot, so I really enjoy it. So we're back. We've been talking about how important it is to go to the bathroom. And one of the things that Dana said that she asked many of her clients that come in, how often do you poop? Which kind of seems like a very invasive question. Oftentimes, I know when I go to the doctor and a physical, and he's like, you know, tell me about your poop. And I'm like, well, it's none of your business about my, you know, it's one of those things that seems so private, but it actually is a very important question to ask. And so, Dana, tell me, why is it so important, and why do you bridge that or talk to your clients? Why is that one of the questions that you ask them?
Well, I just think that especially if it's a child and they have a lot of behavioral stuff going on, I would just be amiss to wait months to ask that question while we're trying to do biofeedback and coping skills and all the ways to deal with whatever's going on. If they're not going to the bathroom, we need to address that quickly, and we need to figure out, because that usually leads us right into what do we drink and what do we eat. And probably one of my Gail was talking about the Miralax. Years ago, this sweet family came in with this 2 parents, 2 cute little girls, and they all sit on the little couch together. And it wouldn't be your typical it wouldn't be your typical counseling client in terms of, because it was the youngest child, and she was so sweet, and the family system seemed very healthy. And they began to talk about, and the little girl was so embarrassed that she covered her face while the parents told why they were there, because they said just at the drop of a hat, she will start having rages, and she will scream for hours. She will tear things up. She will hit people. And then the bigger sister, that might have been 6, raised her hand. I said, yes. And she said, could I talk? And I said, yeah. She's like, she's very nice. I don't know why this happens, but I want you to know my sister is nice. And so this whole family was just devastated by the fact. And I'm like, how long has this been going on? And they said a couple of years. So we talked to, and I thought, this is so odd, because what I'm thinking is, did something happen to this child? Because what turned this otherwise seems like normal development, everything. So I just kept asking questions, and I just felt like I was missing something. And then I asked about medication. They're like, no, she's never had any medication. And then at some point I said, how is she on going to the bathroom? And the mom just rolled her eyes. She said, oh, it's terrible. She's like, she's been constipated since she was born. I'm like, okay, tell me more about that. And then the mom's kind of telling this whole story of how awful it's been. It's still not good, but it's better than it used to be. And she said when she was 2, the doctor prescribed Miralax. I said, prior to age 2, did she have rages? No, she didn't.